Whoa there, you're here with me in this place. How did we get here? Well, let's go back. Way back. There. When these governments want to get bigger, how do they grow? As is shown by these examples, we can see that democratic societies need to react to conflict in the same manner that any form of government does, by the lead of their head figure and their own instincts. We're here now. It appears we have two conflicting nations wanting to get even bigger.
What's at stake? The whole world. Or their whole world. Oops, Sicily's Messena just got conquered, and now the Mamertines are appealing to both sides to keep the power. Rome drove out Carthage's influence and prompted Carthage to retaliate and declare war. Only problem was that Carthage was here, and Rome was here. So they needed a navy. The Carthaginians had on their side a significantly larger navy, led by Hamilcar Barca. Then the Romans thought, no need to build a navy if we can bring our land army afloat. And that thought came true.
Now this fine gentleman here, he had 2 kids, and they both wanted Rome burned to ashes. So along they went on these paths as adults to conquer Rome. We focus on the older son, Hannibal. He went through a path all others perceived to be straight insanity, the Alps. Rome didn't think twice, as no army had done it before he. To make matters more difficult, with them upon their march of war, they brought elephants through the mountains. Now Rome was starting to worry. They thought they could use their bigger army to destroy Hannibal's men, as several died on the trip across. But Hannibal destroyed the opposing forces every single.
He did this partially with the help of the fierce, strong Africans, the Numidian cavalry. The Roman people seethed with rage, but the war-appointed dictator Quintus Fabius Maximus Varuscus decided not to directly attack the ransacked boy, and waited for Hannibal to finish and slowly retrieve their army. And this tactic worked. Hannibal was starting to lose control. For a while.
Then the people, taking to the streets, appointed this man, Marcus Minucius, as a sort of co-dictator. He was not interested in Fabian's tactics, and when sent out to be a general, he brashly took Larinum when the horses wouldn't get up, and later got wrecked in Cannae. Now Rome was vulnerable and ready to get totally destroyed, but alas, the man did not go for it. He instead said the walls were too big to climb and made them a peace treaty.
Meanwhile,
In Spain, his little brother Hasdrubal was fighting the Rome man named Scipio. He wanted to take control of this peninsula, but he failed and he got killed too. Fast forward, and the Romans considered Spain a big loss and a win for Carthage. Enter Scipio's son, who was so enraged and fueled by vengeance that he captured Carthage's capital in Spain and forced Hasdrubal to leave. "Be gone," he said, as the fallen man journeyed to meet his brother in Italy. As Hannibal was the leader there, famous mathematician Archimedes was helping the Carthaginian cavalry hold back Rome and Sicily.
Rome raged and denied the terms, refusing to surrender. At this, Hannibal decided to attempt to fuse with the army of Hasdrubal and get big enough to conquer and destroy the city. Gaius Nero, a general of Rome, decides that won't happen and sneaks off with a large group of soldiers from the main army to help defeat Hasdrubal's men. They managed to corner Hasdrubal and his army against the Metaurus River, killing them off and eliminating Hannibal's advantage.
Scipio had a plan. That plan was to invade Africa and bring the war to Carthage. He allied with the Messenian cavalry, who now, under a new ruler, switched to the side of Rome, and what ensued was the ultimate end. Numidia was joining Rome, and Hannibal stood alone to surrender in 201 BC.
Now, having looked at that side of the world, we turn the globe and talk about this area here. The United States is beginning to get involved in this Cuban Revolution and its independence from Spain, and media coverage is not helping. So the people get mad and want to do something. Whoops, looks like the Maine blew up. Guess who gets blamed? You're right, it's Spain. And guess who's mad? Also Spain. So they declare war, and the US copies that idea.
So they duke it out. Spain can't really influence things overseas, and the US is right on the war. So Pascual Cervera, the Spanish general, sneaks in 3 ships, but they were found and blockaded. They fight, and 3 ships are pursued, and 2 are taken out. The 3rd raises its flag of surrender, and the Americans recover many people from the wreckage.
Spain officially surrenders, and with the help of the Treaty of Paris, it lets go of Cuba, cedes Guam and Puerto Rico to the United States, and gave them absolute authority over the Philippines. Now Spain can focus on its issues at home, while the US is bigger and has overseas expansions.
Both governments of the United States and the Roman Empire are comparable on 2 levels, one being the republican nature of their ruling power, and the second being their prominent emphasis on a strong military. Essentially, both countries wanted to remain as the dominant force of their area, and did so by the means of conquering and intimidation.
Although the opposers of these powers were different in time and nature, they share an essential idea of how
Can
any
interact with and win a conquest of land. Here is a brief summary. Due to a skirmish or over a specific territory, one or more powers is motivated to declare an attack on the other side and is egged on by their population.
The wars escalate and figures of prominent power launch an attack in order to usurp their enemies and create chaos. Despite both public and governmental urge, the figures are not confronted directly and either captured or slowly begin to weaken.
Here the two stories deviate. The US ends the war due to Spain's distance and unprepared conduct, and Rome is nearly destroyed at the hands of Carthage. Yet it shows the persistence these people had, not giving up for anything. They soon began to amass victories, and with their newfound confidence, they overcame the opponent and take the war to them, thusly winning the battle. It is possible that if Spain had a better army and was more prepared, the compromises of the Spanish-American War might have looked a bit more like the Punic Wars.
Generals, consuls, and military leaders, pressured by the public, did things that were both effective and costly, but this voracity for victory can be described about any form of government, from dictatorships to socialistic. The sole difference is the person who formally declares the war. The preservation of a government requires the act of appealing to the...
This attitude means they will not hesitate to preserve themselves in times of war. An interesting aspect of these compromises was that America's fight was restrained, and they did not have the intention of destroying Spain totally as Rome did with Carthage. In spite of this, the war showed that the democratic powers rallied behind strong leaders, and managed to deter their enemy. Both Hannibal and Pasquale led their men, and both failed due to the incompetence of the governments they represented. And it seems that no man can be great alone, or with fools to aid them.
These conflicts are not special. War was viewed as an inevitability during that time and peace as a temporary state. The reaction of any body or institution is to 1. Preserve its authority and or ruling power, and 2. Protect and serve its governed class. Much could be described about the propaganda that both sides used in order to convince and rile up the public, but that is essentially what it was meant for, gaining the public support.
Civilizations do die, their people and materials with them. But the strength to continue on does not die off with one. Conflicts arise of necessity, when powers need to test their newfound capabilities and persistence in the face of an opponent. What both of these nations do, and how capably they manage the obstacles and trials, determines what end of the compromise they receive.